Welcome, everybody. It is time for the Witches Movie Coven, starring Black Phillip and Black Phillip, Black Phillip, Black Phillip, and Black Phillip. Oh, yeah, and a few humans along the way. I am Patti Negri. I am one of your hosts. You might know me from The Witching Hour or Ghost Adventures or Bathroom Walls Across America. Let me introduce you to some of my co-hosts. How about you, Courtney?
That's me. I'm Courtney Buckley, ghost bait on Scared and Alone, and I am back from the dead. I heard last week there were speculations that the haunted Roomba, which is still sitting behind me, got me, and I can neither confirm nor deny that because I'm not sure. I took a little spill in my house, and by a little spill, I mean I went flying across my dining room and landed directly on my knee. So I was in a full leg stabilizer for a long time, and I couldn't sit up. So I was in a lot of pain and could not join you guys. So I feel bad about that. But I'm pretty sure that the Roomba spiritually had something to do with it because it was in the house and it was my first thought that it had come from me. So I don't know. We'll see.
Well, we are glad that you are back because we missed you immensely. Richard-Lael.
I am Richard-Lael. Richard-Lael is one name, not two. If I were just Richard, I would be a. With that, I am the gentleman psychic. I'm a psychic medium. I used to be a psychic small, but I've gained a lot of weight thanks to New Orleans. Unlike other psychics and mediums here in New Orleans who are all love and light or doom and gloom, I'm a happy medium. And you can find me. I'm everywhere. I'm a little bit of everywhere. Anywhere good gentleman psychics are sold.
Thank you very much. Jason.
I'm Jason Mankey. I've written a ton of books for Llewellyn. In my spare time, I am a whiskey enthusiast and a collector of fine whiskeys. There you go. A Yule enthusiast, collector of fine whiskeys. I don't know. It's been a long day in the Bay Area.
Well, we are glad you are here too. And last but absolutely never least, the beautiful Heather Greene.
Hi, everybody. I am finally back. I was so disappointed that I could not be here last week, but I was recovering from Mystic South conference, which was the weekend before that. And then I got, of course, what they call con crud or illness or cold or something, and just was not doing so well for a few days last week and couldn't be here. I don't know what I would have said. I probably would have fallen asleep or something. So thank you for I'm not thank you, but I'm sad I was not here last week because that movie was one I was looking forward to talking about. But I'm here this week, so I'm really excited, and I'll share a little bit about Mystic South maybe a little later at some point. But we had a great time. Thank you for everyone that is part of our coven that came. I heard a lot of good thoughts and wishes and excitement about our show. So I'm really thrilled to be able to share that with you guys. And Black Phillips were there, both of them. They had a great time too.
Yeah, rumors abound.
Yes.
Anyway, we are glad to have the entire crew back. We love our guests when they come in, but when our crew's not here, we miss you. We miss you. So let's talk movies, shall we? This week's movie, Drag Me to Hell, 2009. Just in case somebody didn't see it, I'm just going to tell you, spoiler, it's a spooky one. It's a spooky one. I watched it like this. So, Richard-Lael, just in case somebody did not watch it yet, do you have a completely unbiased synopsis of this film?
I do have. So this film is about a young woman who works as a loan officer in a bank. She is desperately seeking to get the role of loan manager in the bank. But as things do happen, there is a new guy who is quite nearly offered the role of this position. And the bank manager sort of coldly says, well, it could be the new guy. And so she goes back to her desk when she encounters this Romanian woman, and she's older. She has really crumbing nails and bad teeth, and she has an eye that's messed up. And the woman is there to seek a forbearance on a loan. And she's already had 2 extensions, but she's had an illness. So this young woman goes to the bank manager to get an approval, and the bank manager says, "It's up to you. I trust you. You'll do what's best." And so she goes back to this elderly woman and she declines the forbearance. And of course, the woman was there because they were really coming to take things away from her house. So the elderly woman gets down on her knees and she says, "I'm a proud woman, but I don't beg, but I beg you, please, anything, I beg you." And this frightens the young woman, who calls security, and the older woman falls on her face. And so the old woman is rushed out, and she is obviously hurt and angry, and she points a finger. Then, of course, there is the obligatory parking garage fight scene, which I'm not going to go into right now for reasons.
Oh, I can't wait to go into it later.
Obligatory.
The elderly woman is in the parking lot and manages to steal a button, causing this girl to be cursed. She then, stealing a button from her coat, I should have said, steals a button from the woman's coat. And so she says to her that she's going to be, one day, the young woman is going to be the one to come back and beg for her to do something. So she finds out through a course of things that, yes, she has been cursed. She goes to see a psychic. The psychic says it's a Lamia. We'll talk about that too. There's another major thing I have to talk about that. A Lamia is this, according to the story, it's a demonic spirit who takes the form of a goat. We'll talk about that later. That's one of the major things we have to discuss. Anyway, she goes through this rigmarole. She finds out that, yes, she is cursed. Yes, the Lamia is going to take her to hell. There's White Phillip right there. She's going to be dragged to hell, and she has to sacrifice. She has to make a sacrifice. So she makes a cat. Of course, that doesn't work. So she goes, right? That's another thing we can talk about. She goes back to her psychic. The psychic says, "Well, we're going to take you over to meet this woman who lives in, quite frankly, what is one of my dream homes. And the inside does not match the outside. We'll go there for a minute." Anyway, we find out that she cannot actually, she's tried to stop the spirit. She can't stop the spirit. In the end, the girl has mixed up. She thinks that she has gifted this button back to the Romanian woman, who is now, by the way, dead. She's dug her up. She shoved it down her throat. She says, "I give you this button." And then she goes on to meet her boyfriend. And come to find out, it wasn't a button that she had shoved down the throat of this deceased Romanian woman. It was, in fact, her boyfriend standing Lady Liberty coin. They were the same size in the envelope. And as he presents it to her, she falls onto the train track where she is dragged to hell. Roll credits. Also, I failed to mention the 73 Oldsmobile 88. That's the yellow car that is in all of the Raimi films. Anyway, we'll talk about that maybe a little bit more too. Anyway, that's it.
Thank you. Now we are clear on the film. We could send it over to Heather if she has any more information. I don't know if it is in your book or not.
It is. It's mentioned. I don't spend a ton of time on it, but it is mentioned. And I forgot to just point out my book earlier. Lights, Camera, Witchcraft is the book we're talking about. It's a definitive guide to witches and witchcraft in American movies and television. I do mention it. I don't spend a ton of time on it because it's at an interesting point in film. In witch films, so I don't spend a ton of time on it. But I'm going to give you five little things to know about this film before we go any further. So first, context. Of course, we love context. Then we'll talk about Sam Raimi a little bit, other things he's done. The theme of good versus evil. I could probably talk about that for 2 or 3 hours and do a dissertation on it. Then we're going to talk about Lamia, and then finally what people said about this film and what the critics say. So first, context. It's 2009. This is considered a horror film, and I think its budget was around 16 million. I'm looking at this, and I think total it's earned since then 60 million. I saw numbers at 90 million. I'm sorry, its budget was 30. I'm sorry, and it made only 16 million in the opening. But since then, it's earned its money back over time because it's been very popular. It got decent ratings, and it's decently it's liked for a number of reasons. So context, 2009. This is not a period of time when witch films were popular, which is obvious probably by the way witches are treated in this film, or magic is treated. This was a period of time. This is sort of the end of that interest in paranormal films and ghost films, and a lot of stuff during the in-betweens of the witches and magic is treated not quite as gently or as probing in the in-between times, the times between witch popularity. So this was before that. So this film was made during a period of time where most films that contain witches and magic were more paranormal. They're more standard. They don't really probe into what Wicca is or witchcraft or any of the things. They don't really deeply express the themes that are usually present in witchcraft films like The Craft or later, or Charmed that we see, or later films. So this is largely a film that's in that period of paranormal, and it really hits that because we do see the paranormal horror in here. Of course, this is not the same as the paranormal earlier. Some of the paranormal earlier are more ghosty. This one is more demon. Well, it's very demon. So it's very much very different. And it is more of an anomaly in that sense. So Sam Raimi made this film. Sam Raimi is famous for Spider-Man, the ones with Tobey Maguire, and did a lot of work on that. Also,
still the best ones.
And for the Evil Dead franchise, that was the breakout. And then also a movie that we probably should do out here at some point, The Gift. I don't know if anybody's seen The Gift. It's a 2000 film. It's really good. There's tarot readers and stuff in it. Definitely one we could do here, The Gift. And then one of my least favorite Oz films ever made, and I'm angry at him for doing, is Oz the Great and Powerful. It is a horrible film, but we can also probably do that film here, and I can spend the whole time trashing it. And also Doctor Strange. So he's done a lot of big films. This particular film also was written by him and his brother, and it was written by them from scratch. He said in an interview that he enjoyed doing this film because he got control, low budget, after doing Spider-Man. He had full control over this, which made him feel like he was back doing the first The Evil Dead. So it was really a really good breakout for him in that way. He's not only a horror director, but you can see his skill in the horror genre. He knows it. And a lot of his favorite directors he lists are horror and suspense, older directors that do horror and suspense. So we have that. So that's Sam Raimi. He actually appears in the film as a ghost. I didn't spot him during the seance scene. And several of his family members he has in the film as well. So he threw in as his brother, not Ivan, the other one, and a few others. So that's Sam Raimi. That's the director. The theme, good and evil, of course, as I said, this isn't probing into witchcraft. This is a straight up, you are a bad person, you will go to hell. That is the central theme of this. And he uses all of these different tropes and all of these different cues to make that possible. And all of these things come from are very typical, what you'd expect in the representation of magic and witchcraft, whether it's devils and Satan or scary looking ladies, old ladies. He uses everything. The evil eye shows up. He talks about scary Ouija boards. There's all kinds of stuff, all the tropes that you'd expect that would set up that very Christian based good versus evil dynamic that's going on here. What's also interesting, which if you know what happened during that time, having the bank be evil, having the bank be the problem is very good for 2009 because everybody then would have just gone through the banking crisis. So that setting the bank in there is probably very apropos and probably on point and on purpose. You also have a very nuanced reading, which is something that I've studied a lot, is that you also have this setup between Middle America and Coast. specifically LA here. And in movie language, in a lot of movie language, especially when you have the binary of good versus evil, middle America is good and LA is bad. And you see that play out in a number of different ways in this. She's trying to get away from middle America. And then she makes a bad choice. And that is bad. Her rejecting her middle American heritage, real American heritage, versus going to LA where you have the parents and you have the coastal, the wealth and the bank and everything is all represented. So and I'm sorry to my California friends, but that's just this is a Hollywood thing. They do this in movies. And so you see this good versus evil play out in a lot of different ways. And what I love about what Sam Raimi does is the story is very tight. So you can see this very easily. Which takes me to the next theme, the devil or the demon here, Lamia. Now, Sam Raimi says this was completely made up. He did not do any research. I know Richard-Lael's going, no, wait a second. He did say the only research he did for this film was for the character, the Roma character, the gypsy, as they call her in the film, and Lamia. And he said they found mythological and folkloric figures all over the world that were called Lamia. So they said, this is what he said. He said, we just created it. We said, we can make one and let's just make one and call it Lamia. So that's what they did. And they gave it this is what gives this film a folkloric feel, because they gave it the goat figure, the demon based on that. They pulled a lot from different things. You do have Lamia in a number of different Eastern European, Greek mythology. There are characters, these demon characters, but he said he did a little research and then they kind of made it up on their own. That is what I'm just repeating what he said. And Lamia, of course, is the bad character, the demon here, the one who drags her to hell. And so there is some truth to it. There is some folkloric, and of course, the connection to the Baba Yaga, which is clearly the representation that the old lady is taking. There's the talking goat. There's the Baba Yaga. So you have these Eastern European folkloric connections in here, which are really interesting, which also add to the mythological good versus evil and the moral story. So there's lots going on here. Finally, I'm going to move on to the reactions. So when people talk about this movie, they talk about it as a comedy. They talk about it being comedic as well as horrific. They talk about both. Now, I personally don't see the comedy in it. What I would say is it's campy. And I think campy is a better word. So I leave that to you guys, whether you think this is a comedy and a horror. So that is where I'll leave it. And then we can discuss. I know Richard-Lael's dying to discuss Lamia. I could see it busting out. Oh, Jason shaking the, yeah, me too. So I think there's a lot we can discuss here. And I have some personal things that are, for me, on the filmic nerd side, I think this is so rich. So I have other things that I could bore you with. But
thank you. And we want that because you won't bore us. Richard-Lael, if you're bursting, please burst.
Well, historically, the Lamia is a Greek goddess demon, and that is a loose word. It's loose. It's not like Western demon. Like it's. Anyway, she's half serpent, half woman, and she was the lover of Zeus, and also she was sort of the boogeyman that mothers would say, if you're not good, the Lamia is going to eat you.
Like Baba Yaga.
Right. And it has nothing to do with the goat. It's not a male energy. It's not the Baphomet. It has nothing to do with any of that. It's different. So that was the one that the Lamia, that one really bothered me.
Can I talk about what really bothered me?
Yes.
You talked about it, so I just have to jump right into it because since you said it, I can't control it anymore. In the fight scene in the car, when, first of all, we're using an office stapler to somehow hammer industrial-sized staples into this woman's face hard enough that it pinches her evil eye closed. That's fine. But then when she flies forward and smashes her head on the dashboard and her teeth come out, she then gums her chin. What was that?
Well, and then
See-
why
So
were her
weird.
dentures? Why did her dentures look like rotted teeth? That's
Right?
what hit me.
Who did you pay? Nobody.
See, this is
obviously,
why
'cause
it's
you
a
needed bank
comedy.
loan.
This
And
is why it's
also-
also a comedy, because I laughed pretty hard at that scene in places because it was so absurd, and it really wasn't scary when she's trying to gum the bank person to death. I
Yeah.
mean, you know, like,
Mhm.
I feel bad for her because I wouldn't want to be gummed by anybody like that, but it wasn't
had-
scary.
And why was it so sloppy?
Oh god!
Like there was a lot of spit, and I
Talk
felt
to.
very uncomfortable.
That was the
And-
horror part. That was the horror part.
Right, but the other thing too is like every time I couldn't understand. Maybe it wasn't just for me between a comedy or a horror, and I'm going to say this as carefully as I can, because at no time did any of the actors sound scared. They sounded like they were filming another kind of movie. So I think we need to work on our Scream Queen aesthetic before we film a movie like this, because the sounds that they were making were pornographic.
Really?
Yes. That's all I can think about the whole time.
I'm gonna have to go listen to a porno film.
Every time anything, I can't even. Every time anything happened, it was not screaming. It was like moaning. It was a lot. This whole movie was a lot.
I was offended, I have to say. I know it's 2009 and I know that it's tropes and I know, but specifically that scene with the fight scene in the parking garage, it really, the humanist side of me really made me, it made me nauseous because it's xenophobic. The woman is clearly not American. It's ageist, it's ableist. And why is there, I worked at 2 banks. Why is she walking out when it was daylight? And why is she parking all the way down into there? And there's nobody else in the parking garage but her. I worked at 2 banks. They don't do that, number one. Number two, the elderly woman is in the back seat of her car in this fairly well-lit parking garage. She walked right by. She didn't see the woman standing and sitting in her back seat. What's more is that, yes, the stapler bothered me. She kicks her out of the car. The door was shut. And she just pushes her out of the car like it's a saloon door. And then there's, as she pulls the door to it, she locks the door, and then there happens to be a rock. Where did
that come from?
Why is there a rock in this parking garage? And furthermore, why didn't the elderly woman just kill her? That would have been the end of the movie. That's it. I will say, however, on the 73 Oldsmobile 88, that is a Rami car. And if you look at the license plate, it says 99915, which is upside down, is 666, by the way.
How did the old woman know what car to get into? Is an open question, right? I mean, powerful magician, I guess. I have met you, so now I know what car you drive, and I will hang in the back seat. That whole situation could have been done a lot better. I just thought that was really silly when I was watching the movie.
Also,
No, I
the
mean,
silly.
yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Courtney.
I was gonna say the silliest, wildest fight scene for no reason whatsoever is then the climax of which is her pulling a button off of her coat. Like, if all you needed was a button, what are we doing here? Give me that button.
Okay. I mean, I watched a lot of it like this because I mean, it is the gumming, the saliva. That was the horror. I never laughed like a comedy. I kind of agree with Heather more that it's more campy than that because it wasn't a comedy. Is different to me, and I could never have anything a comedy that killed the world's cutest kitten. I am sorry. I am the girl who's never even seen Old Yeller or Bambi or even any Disney animal movie because I'm afraid there's going to be cruelty to an animal. And the cutest little kitten, and you saw it come in, and you saw it come in, and she did it with way too much glee. and I kind of lost it right there. And then we saw the poor beautiful goat, and I'm like, oh God, they're going to do that too. The goat survived. So
I love that.
Well, then the cat got thrown up after. Like that was.
But it was
uncalled
dead.
for.
But it was
Right.
dead. I
did
think.
throw up.
Right.
How she buried.
Extra.
I couldn't. I'm like, this is the worst thing I've ever seen as far as the kitty, the cute kitty. It's like I'm picturing in my mind end credits. No animals were harmed in the making of this film. End credits. No, but I couldn't do it because, I mean, I'm all for freedom of speech, but that should be illegal.
There you go.
I thought the goat was funny though in that whole
love the
scene.
goat.
Like when he bites a person, it was so campy and unbelievable. Right? That is hilarious. And I'm rooting for the goat right there. I
It's
know
like
it's
an
a
evil
demon with
Christmas
a goat.
special.
I know the goat just has a demon in it, but it was just so silly. To me, this is funny. Maybe I have a bad sense of humor.
I
Well,
think it was funny. And in metaphorically speaking, white goats represent money. She spent $10,000. $10,000 for a 2-minute seance? $10,000. So white goat represents money.
And then what demon? This is my favorite part because we're now full demon possessed at this point and trying to kill everybody. But we're gonna take a dance break while we hover over the table. Like, what was that? I'm just saying. Like, everyone had time to do something because we were too busy like over the table. What? I don't know. I remember seeing this movie when it first came out. Yeah, and the dude doing that crazy Irish jig in the air. Yes. I remember seeing this movie when it first came out. I didn't remember anything about it when we brought up when we said we were doing it. I was like, oh, cool. Like, because I remember it being a horror movie. And I think the jump scares and stuff got me back then because I'm sure I saw it in the movie theater. But I didn't remember anything else about it. And then I started watching it and I was like, this is painful in all the ways. Like when the gumming happened, I was like, I have to go, but my leg's still not better. I can't. Roomba, take me because I can't watch this anymore.
Roomba, take me.
And then it just got worse.
That's going to be the sequel.
Roomba, take me.
That's the sequel. Drag Me to Hell 2, The Gumming.
Wait, and there is one. There's one
Oh.
coming. He's working on Drag Me to Hell 2 right now.
The Gumming.
He reported that they are working on one right now. They're trying to find the right storyline because it ends definitively. So how are they going to do a second story? So they're working on that right now. So just get ready, and people are excited about it.
Justin Long isn't that busy. Right? I mean, Justin Long's got time. There's no Dodgeball 2 coming out anytime soon. He's got time. None of those Apple commercials.
Roomba Boogaloo.
He's somebody I like,
That's
so
right.
I feel mean making fun of him because I kind of like him, but he's not busy.
This movie for me was not funny. I didn't think it as a comedy. The first time I saw it when I was working on my book, or this time when I reviewed it again, and I remember when we said we're going to do it, I'm like, I know it's the one with that house and the fire comes out of the bottom floor. That's what I remembered about it. But I think campy is the better word. I just kind of watched it, and it for me it didn't go either. These things didn't really bother me that much, but they were the gumming, and there was a lot of very campy things I just rolled my eyes at. And after a while, by the end, I'm like, okay, it's supposed to be campy. He knows what he's doing, and he actually says that in the interview. They said, "Well, you're known for adding comedy into your things," and I don't call this comedy again. But he said, well, he gets uncomfortable stuff that's serious, so he always has to inject comedy. So the campiness and the stuff that he's doing is on purpose. He adds that stuff on purpose. It's not, and you can tell by the end of the movie, I'm like, yeah, I can tell this is actually, he's doing this weird stuff on purpose. What bothered me more than all of that, because I get the camp. Okay, so this is supposed to be like this, rather than a horror movie that's trying to be serious and gets really bad, But for me, what bothered me more was the representation of magic and witchcraft. And I know this is it's similar to what you said, Richard-Lael. I know this is 2009, and I know we're not going to get, and mostly I don't get too bothered by these things, but this one bothered me in kind of ways I didn't expect. And it's more than just, she's not really a witch. It's, you know, there's a medium in there, but you did have, like you pointed out, that dichotomy with the good, the good girl who got duped is the white girl from the Midwest. And then you have the two magical people are not from the US. They're othered. And so you have that going on, which is a little bothersome to me in 2009, which is very strange for witchcraft and occult films of the era. You kind of have that dichotomy, which you would have seen that more in the 80s. This film really feels like it would have been a satanic panic film. And then when he talks about, well, I think it was Justin Long's character, someone said, well, what were you playing around with that you think about this demon? Were you playing with a Ouija board? Oh no, it was the first
psychic guy.
It was the first psychic. He said, were you playing with a Ouija board? Were you playing with a there was a list of things he said. Hang on, I have it. Oh, were you playing with a Ouija board, dark spirits? Or were you dealing with someone with the black arts? He went through this long list of things. And for that to happen in 2009 felt strange. The language of that felt strange to me. It felt off for the representation of magic and occult and witchcraft at that point. And even though this wasn't a witchcraft era, it still felt off. And you also had, you had the little evil eye symbol, and you had the whole thing connected to gypsy and, all of this folk. It just, the balance was wrong for me. And I said, no, I think maybe that's what you were kind of poking at a little bit there, Richard-Lael.
Exactly.
It was like a chick track. Yeah. Really, right? Like,
oh, right.
Yeah. And it was to me, it was as cartoony as a chick track too.
Yeah,
right?
It was very cartoony. That's for sure. Falling into a grave and then almost getting out and then getting hit in the head with a metal cross.
No, and then passing out and drowning, but yet somehow 3 seconds later being I could not. I was yelling because it made I can't. I'm so mad. It made a like loud like gong noise when it hit her, so it hit her hard, and then she's like, and then she goes under the water with the corpse on her, like gross, and then she's like, and then 2 seconds later, you're gonna tell me she's awake now? I don't think so. And then she can climb back out. Mm-mm.
Also, do you know how hard it is to dig into the ground? And
that
she dug like
in
6
the rain
feet into the ground in a huge pit, like it was nothing. I get tired when I dig 6 inches into the ground.
It was a brand new grave.
That's true.
But then she was trying to rip the top of it open while she was on it. And I know it ripped in half, but I was like, what are you get off of it and open it? Oh my God. It was just, it was so stressful.
Having lived in Los Angeles, when does it ever rain like that?
Never. That's what I was going to say. I have lived my entire life in Los Angeles. It has never rained that hard that you would fill up a grave in
like a minute
or a year or anything. Never. It does not rain in California.
Colin says it's a wonder there's not more gumming in the grave. I wish that I'd never read that sentence because I'm gonna have nightmares about this for the rest of my life.
Now I looked this up after watching it because I couldn't get anything past the cat. I'm sorry, that was it. And then I read something that a whole fan thing came, which didn't make sense to me because they had the one little quote that the girl used to be fat, and that this was all delusional and not real demons, but it was an eating disorder.
What?
There's a whole thing on that.
I mean,
whole thing on that.
I, as a storyteller, I could understand. So maybe she didn't eat and it made her brain malfunction. And I think that's
they're stretching.
I think that's a real stretch. I think that's a major stretch.
I think it's a stretch too, because this is a very tight story. He does not leave anything. I mean, one of his favorite directors that he cited was Hitchcock, and Hitchcock was known for editing in the camera, for tight stories. He didn't leave things. And in fact, the return of the coin in the envelope feels very Hitchcockian to me. So much so. This story is very tight. I can't see anything in there that would even suggest, yes, she did. I think the comments about her being fat are linked to the fact that right at the beginning, she's trying to lose her Midwestern accent or Southern accent or some accent she had. She's doing
from Iowa.
Iowa. Is that where she said she's trying to lose whatever accent is? So she doesn't seem that she's trying to lose that country girl, that farm girl feel, which is the conflict with the parents. Another, rural America versus LA is the parents and her and the so I think that is a symbol of her trying to be unhealthy, losing that cute girl next door thing to try to be this LA, whatever, success by losing weight. I think that's symbolic and has nothing to do with any kind of, she's really dreamed. This is all a dream.
Yeah,
No.
I agree. I read that and they said that this whole group had made a thing out of it, and I
always like movies that are ambiguous a little bit, right? Is this something that's actually happening, or is it something happening in her brain? And at the end, when she falls on the train tracks and is, going to be killed by the train, I think to myself, oh, maybe there is some ambiguity here to this story. Maybe the distress is in her mind. And then, of course, the world opens up and the demon grabs her and there are witnesses for it.
Meanwhile, Longfellow, whatever his name is that his name, Long?
Justin Long?
Yeah, the Longfellow. The train is coming, and he's basically reaching over the edge into the path of the train, and you just see his eyes are red, he was reaching into the path of the train. What? He didn't get hurt, and yet she was dragged to hell. I'm so confused at that.
Maybe she's going to come back as what's it? Islamia, the goddess Lamia. Maybe that's the next movie. I mean, maybe we need to write the next one since he's having trouble finding the story.
I'm going to call him up and have him run the Roomba around and then drag me into hell if I ever have to watch this movie again.
So would that be a wands down then, Courtney?
I don't know. I'm undecided.
Cat. Bring back the damn kitty.
Yeah.
Oh, that was the cutest kitten.
All right. Well, we've discussed, we've circled. Do we have any quotes for this, Ms.
This was a very unquotable movie, which I said out loud. That was the quote because I said it out loud about 6 times while I was watching it, but I do have a couple. Some of them I can't say, so I'm gonna have to try to censor them. Hold on. Let's see. When she screams, "Get your filthy pig knuckle off my desk." I was like, this went from 0 to 100 real quick, honey. And then the demon said, "I don't want your cat, you dirty pork queen."
Love it, that one.
Mm-hmm. And then when the guy gets, the nosebleed, where she's just spraying blood out of her nose for no reason. Like, that was very. And he's like, "Did I get any in my mouth?" I was, oh, okay, great. And then my absolute favorite line was when she's shoving the envelope into the corpse's mouth, and then she yells, "Choke on it."
Which?
Well, I didn't. Yeah, Stitch. I didn't want to associate the witch word with that word, but choke on it, you be. And I thought that was pretty exciting, but then ruined it entirely by the bonking on the head of the fact that wasn't even the button. So now I'm mad about that. That was my favorite line. So that's what I got.
Beautiful. All right. Anything else did we want to discuss before we move on to the Mankey movie minute? We're kind of speeding through this one really fast. And
go on, Jason.
I do think that there's some work politics at play in this film, though, that we have not discussed.
Please.
Because she makes a bad choice because the men in her office are screwing with her so badly. Like, it's clear that her boss is sort of a sexist, chauvinist kind of jerk face, right? And then the other loan officer who has just kind of shown up and says, "Get me a sandwich," and then complains that it has mayonnaise or mustard on it. I was like, wow, that is super offensive. And to me, they're the real villains of this movie because they set everything up in so many ways. If they had just shown her common courtesy and respect and allowed her to get by on her merits, she would not have denied that woman a third month for being late on her mortgage payment, probably.
Go on.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, and yes, the 2009 banking crisis, yes, we understand that as well. I think that these two stories, the elderly woman who cannot afford to pay her mortgage because of sickness, and the woman who is at work, who is given this choice of, well, you can either have a raise or you can get a sandwich. I think those are really powerful stories. I think that they have a lot to them, and I don't think that either one, like you said, I don't think the elderly woman is the bad guy. I don't think that she's the bad guy. All of these men who were awful, and I have to say, when she found out that the loan papers were stolen by the new guy and taken over to First National Bank, even though I'd watched it a long time ago and I remembered that it wasn't, I still hoped again that somehow it would have been the button and she would have given it to him, who stands there. He's been accused of stealing and don't tell my dad, like a bully. And then she is so good that she says, just get out of here. So even if there were a hell, I don't believe that there is, even if there were a hell, why would she deserve to go to hell?
Right. And I think that's the tragedy of it. That's where you get into more of the folkloric moral stuff. But I think that also is reflected in the very conservative ethical narrative that's playing through here. They just, those two men are clearly not good. Why weren't they the ones who were being punished? I think if this story was told in a different way by a different person, maybe, or at a different time, that whole ethical line would have gone a different way, and she could have been redeemed for her bad choice because she was pushed into this just trying to get ahead as a young girl or as a person. But she's being punished not just for that choice. She's also being punished on a movie narrative level for wanting to give up her middle America nice girl. That's all tied into this film, into these themes. And so there's a very, like I said, satanic panic. You have the misogyny of the guys. And even though the older lady, to me, and this is like, again, this is where I said this movie has so much thematic stuff that I could just talk about. But even though those two guys, even though the old woman clearly is being harmed by the bank as well, she is set up the way she's dressed with her teeth and all the things. She's set up as the Baba Yaga evil right from the get-go. This movie never gives her the opportunity to ever be a victim. It tries to, we could look at it that way because we don't see characters like that as necessarily bad because we're witches and Satanists and blah, 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 folklorists, whatever you want to call us. But generally speaking, in filmic language, she was evil right from the get-go. And there was no room in this film for an alternative. So, I would say that this narrative could be problematic. And then maybe that gets back to what we were talking about at the beginning. This is a very satanic panic, basic, tight narrative that doesn't leave room for those options, those ethical differences that we're seeking.
I feel like
I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I was just really quick. Like, I feel like I agree with all of that, but also at the same time, she kept saying it wasn't my choice, it was my boss's choice. And I feel like she spent so much of the movie almost like she believed that herself, but it was like she never took responsibility for it. So there, to me, like that weighs heavy on my morals, that like, yeah, you made a choice and these are the consequences, whether you like it or not. Whatever the reasons behind that choice were, it was still yours to make, and not taking responsibility for it and trying to blame somebody else for it feels disingenuous. And that, like, I mean, that to me, you're just as bad because you are not like you almost believe it yourself. You like gaslight yourself into believing it.
And
like
that, I agree with you 100%. And that's what, and that again gets tied back to her wanting to be this LA person, this evil LA person. And she's trying to do this and push ahead. And then she's sorry, Patti. And then, and then at the end, she puts a new dress on. She looks flowery. She looks very country. She has her cute little new light blue. Her whole demeanor changes, and she finally owns up to it. It's like she's finally accepting her true self at the end, perhaps, and because she's not having her job anymore, but she's still going to hell. It's too late.
Yeah.
We all witnessed it.
I didn't feel bad for her. Like I didn't. I felt bad for the old lady in the beginning, but then you throw a temper tantrum about it. I don't feel bad for you anymore either. And then I didn't feel bad for her because she didn't take her. Like, yes, I see where it would have come from.
She redeemed herself at the end. She said, "I did it."
Right, but all throughout the whole movie, she's even in the seance while the demon is attacking other people, saying, "It wasn't me. It was my boss. It wasn't me. It was my boss." Watching other people get hurt. So that to me is like, it's a little too late.
Was this movie sort of Sixth Sense-like in the way that it had the trick ending with, "Oh, I have your button. You did not really get rid of it"? I felt it was sort of one of those things that was supposed to surprise you and shock you at the end, though I didn't really feel surprised or shocked at all.
No.
I felt duped. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I just watched all that for what?
For the white goat. That's why.
All right. I'll give a ones up to the white goat.
Yeah.
The white goat spitting out the kitty cat. That was great.
Patti
singing
far
our
apart.
That's
Oh
why we
my
do this
God.
show. We do this show for those moments, right? I mean,
All right. Do we have, Jason, a Mankey movie minute?
of course we do.
Oh my God.
All right, here we go. Sam Raimi presents the ultimate evil. A milquetoast loan officer at a mid-sized bank. Tremble as her sensible shoes walk across the bank's tile floors. Tile floors free of blood. Gaze upon the horror spectacle that is stapling two documents together. Shriek in terror at her coma-inducing fashion choices, most likely purchased at Banana Republic. And cringe as you experience the complete lack of chemistry between our loan officer and her boyfriend. Meet Christine Brown, a woman with a name as boring as her fashion choices. Christine mostly wants to do good, but faced with an opportunity to up her place in the work food chain, she opts to evict an old woman who does not react well to such treatment. Be odd as a 95-year-old Roma woman with no teeth actively beats the tar out of Banana Republic's favorite customer in a car, in a parking garage, in the middle of the day. All while Christine Brown wrecks her car into several other cars. I gotta admit, the film lost me a little bit here. Is anyone else in the parking lot? Are there security cameras? What happened with the other wrecked cars? Do police not exist in this universe? Christine's boss is kind of a tool, but after a pretty intense assault, wouldn't Christine get a few days off of work? Maybe she'd file a police report? Okay, I get it. Christine was kind of crappy to the old lady. It was a poor choice to have her lose her house, but does that mean Christine should rot in hell for eternity? It just seems a bit excessive, doesn't it? Maybe Christine should have just had her hair fall out or lose her job? And if you could conjure up a demon to curse someone to hell, couldn't you conjure up some money to pay her mortgage? I mean, seriously, I could make some serious cash if I had such magical powers. You know, people would be lining up around the block for that stuff. And the old woman was spry as hell at this point. She could take all the buttons she wanted from anybody, I think. I'd pay this old woman some serious cash to remove a few Courtney Buckley hexes, that's for sure. Find yourself unsurprised by the twist ending as, spoiler alert, Christine Brown is now cursed for eternity for making one bad choice. And she didn't even kill anybody. And even if you hate bankers, the true evil in this film is a male-dominated workplace that set up poor Christine from Iowa, and she's from Iowa because of course she is. Sorry, Iowa, you deserve better, to fail from the very start. Screw Stu with a rusty poop-encrusted nail.
Yay!
Oh, wow. Wow. Okay. We have one more thing to do. We vote. Drag me to hell. Will we drag it to a wands up or a wands down?
Oh
Wow.
my goodness, not one
Never
up.
read so many midways before.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody, Robert, Colin, Alicia, you have to vote. Wands up, wands down, or just lay it across the middle.
Mine is kind of a little up because Heather, I did laugh at it several times.
I only laugh when the goat came up to the table when they put him there, and he stood there with his face staring, and he was center screen, and I laughed so hard at the goat's face. It was the only time.
I mean, the last 30 minutes are a pretty rollicking good time, but it takes a long time to get to those last 30 minutes, right?
I would like to sue for damages for having to watch The Gummy. So emotional distress.
That was the horror. I would have gone higher up just because I liked the scary, as stupid as it was, but the cat brought it down.
And that book, like sacrificing animals to deities, that didn't need to be in the movie. I was so mad for my deities who do not demand sacrifice. For behold, yeah.
Terrible.
The goddess says, nor do I demand sacrifice, right?
And she jumped into killing a kitty before she even had the rules.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Very poor representation of witchcraft in an unnecessary way.
Yes. All right. Well, so much. Drag me to hell. We were dragged to hell. Heaven, hell. We don't know. I'm even unclear. What are we watching next week?
I think Richard-Lael needs to tell everybody.
Flush!
He'll save each and every one of us. Boom, boom.
We are watching Flash Gordon. Was it 1980, that one?
Yeah. 81? 80?
With the music of Queen. It's not Flash the runner, it's Flash the footballer with Queen. And leather daddies and winged things and Ming the Merciless.
Hawkman. Sorry, I'm very excited.
I'm bored.
So we're getting some wands up. We're getting wands up. We're getting somebody's hungry. Way up. So, they're warming into it a little bit. They're warming into it. I was scared, and that's what you do at a horror film in between. Yeah. All right. We have a few minutes left. We're going to watch Flash next week. Who wants to tell us what they have going on this week?
Me.
Go, Courtney.
I am going several places that were all decided very last minute. So I'm going next week when you see me appear on Witches Movie Coven. This will not be my background because I will be in LA.
With the evil ones, with us evil ones.
I'm going to go be an LA girl, and I'm going to not take responsibility for my choices while I'm there, and hopefully get dragged to hell. Thanks for
maybe she was dragged to hell because of her Banana Republic. Maybe that's maybe that's what it is. I mean, anything is.
I gotta do some shopping before I go, obviously, because that is not in my wardrobe. And then the next weekend, I will be at Michigan Paragon. I'm very excited. I'm sad that it is the last one that's going to happen, but I will see Patti. I'll see you there.
Yes.
And it'll be very exciting.
Yes. Cannot wait to see you both places. Richard-Lael?
Yes. So I teach at University of Magicus. I don't have anything planned to write just yet, but I'm always there. Also, Kate Fruhler wrote a book, and it is so good. She is so. I was so honored to write the foreword for her. This book, I have not had someone so succinctly say what I believe in text form, and people have asked me, well, what book? And I go, I don't know. I don't know. But this one, Magic at the Crossroads, Kate Fruehler, I devoured this book. I read it straight way through. I enjoyed every second of it. I think you will too.
It's about the devil and Satan in magical practice in modern times, and it's and the connections. So it's amazing. I agree with you.
Thank you. While you're there, Heather.
Sure. Well, I'm back from Mystic South, which was my big summer thing. So now school has started here, so I'm back doing some mom stuff, and of course working with my wonderful authors, and I'm going to be getting ready for Charles Oz, which is at the end of September. So that's my next big event, is to do Charles Oz, where I'll get to talk about Wizard of Oz, the Wicked Witch of the West, and Glinda in film and television throughout American history. So I'm super excited to bring that to a bunch of Wizard of Oz fans. That's going to be a totally different group of people that I'll be talking to. So that'll be fun. I'll have more on that. And I think that is it. I don't have any other plans at this point, but I do want to say that I also I'm really happy to have worked with you, Patti, on the book that we're doing, which is just getting announced because the cover was just released. I don't know if we have a copy of it again to put up. I did our doll workshop at Mystic South, and our doll workshop. See, I even think like it's our workshop. And we did haunted dolls, and we had a great turnout. We made little poppets, and I did put your book up, and we talked about haunted dolls, and I mentioned your little girl back there, and it was a lot of fun. So I'm really looking forward to seeing this book come out, and I'm honored to do the foreword. So it's been fantastic.
I am through my whole life.
There it is.
There it is. Wait, that's the old cover, because now it says foreword by Heather Greene on the bottom, but it looks just like that with Heather's name on the front as well. Proudly. So yeah, this is like literally a dream come true for decades for me, because Llewellyn was my enlistment into witchcraft, and I could not be happier. So, but I'm not mine next. Jason's next.
Now, I've got almost nothing going on right now. I'm just finishing my book, High Priest Raymond Buckland, Father of American Witchcraft, but I don't have any events until October, which for me is crazy. I'm just going to be like cabin fever for the next month and a half.
Okay, well, thank you. I will be this coming weekend in 2 days. I will be in New Orleans for Hex Fest, teaching 3 different workshops, doing a panel. It's a busy, fun weekend in New Orleans. And then I'm going to be doing a fundraiser. If any of you guys know Daniel Class in Buffalo, New York, he's the guy who owns Hildensdale House. His daughter was diagnosed with a very not good cancer. So we're there, and then I'm going to go. So I'll see Richard-Lael this week in New Orleans, and then next week, after I get back from Buffalo, Courtney in Michigan Paracon, and then I get busy. Then I get to Europe and everything else. I also teach at University Magicus. I teach on Tuesdays, and we're so happy to have Richard-Lael teaching us. I am one of the owners of Paraflix. If you like this paranormal and ghosty and spooky things, Paraflix.com, and my podcast, The Witching Hour, drops everywhere every Monday, and I'm proud to be part of this beautiful Witches Movie Coven. And my book on our book with Heather, Magic, will be out next year. I will start posting and teasing the cover next week when I give the next draft to Heather, which is 3 days, weeks, years ago. It's like, this is the hard part. I don't know how you've written 900 books for Jason. I do not know how you've written 900 books for Llewellyn. I don't know.
I have a different editor. That's how I've done it. I've stayed far away from Heather. That's like I value our friendship too much. I've always stayed far from Heather.
Anyway, that is it. Flash for next week. Grab your goat. Does everybody have a goat yet? I know Robert out there watching has a goat. So grab your goat, and 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.